ambitious mana.
I think that is indeed a good way to put it. This is actually very close to Sukanek's green-white tokens list that he posted. It looks like the major difference is that he has Spellskite in place of Mortarpod, and one less Machias in order to fit in a Thrun.
We have both players on our screen here. Michael Jacob on the left-hand side of the screen, Jonathan Filla on the right. Michael Jacob, he's
look at that, he's laughing, he's smiling.
And that's very unique for MJ to be anything but curmudgeonly. But Michael Jacob was the one-time U.S. national champion who actually led the team to the Team World Championships. Was that in 2008?
2008. Yeah, that was the year he beat Sam Black in the finals, I believe.
Yes. And he also made top 8 in Pro Tour Amsterdam just last year, where he actually beat me in the quarterfinals, like a jerk.
That 2008 U.S. Nationals was kind of, in a lot of ways, the coming out party for both Michael Jacob and Sam Black.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that's come out of that is that they have become incredible mainstays of the tour since then.
Yeah, MJ's been a player, prior to last year, he was one of the players who was definitely recognized as one of the best players who had not made a Pro Tour top 8. And a player who's sort of consistently underrated. He actually has a great, we were actually just discussing last night, his great video series that he does on Star City Games Premium, where he does very, very good analytic breakdowns of different matchups.
Yeah. I mean, here we
so
are,
now we're
off to the start. And to finish up with that too, I think Michael Jacob does the best video deck focus video in the game. Now, turn 2, Jonathan Filla follows up a Forest with a green-white. We got Machias for 1 versus a Seachrome Coast on Michael Jacob's side.
So, what do you think about when you play your Machias in the green-white deck against various matchups?
Okay, well, it depends, right? If I know who Michael Jacob is, and I see a Seachrome Coast, I actually expect a gut shot, so I would never do that. However, otherwise, if I just saw a Seachrome Coast, I would absolutely run out that Machias for 1 if it wasn't Michael Jacob. Oh, there we go. That takes care of that.
One of 2 main deck Phantasmal images. Michael Jacob has actually, the win conditions in his deck, primarily, it's a Sun Titan recursion deck. He has 3 copies of Sun Titan, 2 copies of Phantasmal Image. He's gone to sort of the Solar Flare style of reanimation with this deck. He also has an Elish Norn Grand Cenobite.
A Blade Splicer joins the team for Jonathan Filla. Elish Norn is such a monster in this matchup.
Elish Norn is a card that I remember certainly trying to get into many decks in playtesting for the World Championships. It's just incredibly powerful against so many different decks.
Turn 3, Michael Jacob says Island Go.
Passes back with a revised Island, I believe that is.
Okay, so in terms of his possible instance here, Mana Leak, Desperate Ravings, and Forbidden Alchemy with 1 Dissipate.
So the whole reason that Michael Jacob is playing with red in this deck is Desperate Ravings. Desperate Ravings is a card that Patrick Chapin was a huge advocate of, and was arguing that it was a big part of the reason that he chose to play Grixis at the World Championships.
We have a attack for 4, and then a Gavany Township, followed by maybe a Garrick, which he assumes is going to be countered, apparently, the way he's holding that card there. To the yard.
MJ.
There are definitely some ways I think that Desperate Ravings is not as good, but I do love the card.
I think Desperate Ravings is... I've definitely tried to play a lot of decks with Desperate Ravings since it sort of got on my radar. I had Desperate Ravings in my blue-red deck leading into Worlds, and it was one of the big reasons that I thought that deck was very good. I think that Desperate Ravings is a sort of card...
Mana Leak for Garrick. Go ahead.
Is a sort of card that definitely needs the right shell around it.
Absolutely.
A deck that has a way to utilize cards in its graveyard, whether it's a Snapcaster Mage. In blue-red, I thought it was particularly powerful with Grim Lavamancer because it was able to fuel that without using more of your resources.
I think any deck that has to set up a plan reduces the power of Desperate Ravings because it can... I know it doesn't happen necessarily very often, but having a plan be disrupted by Desperate Ravings can be really problematic. But the sheer power of the card is uncontestable. Forbidden Alchemy, main phase from Michael Jacob, probably digging for a land.
Finds what looks like
3 lands and a Snapcaster, is that?
That looked like Sulphur Falls. You can definitely tell it's Island because it's the 1 white-bordered card.
Well, I think he has them white-bordered so that when he uses his Ghost Quarter on his own land, he can find it more easily.
Interesting. Or uses Traveler's Amulet.
Okay, what do we get? That looks like a Ghost Quarter.
So
His hand, I think I see Sun Titan reinforcements, timely reinforcements, and I couldn't tell what the other cards are as he flipped them. Not as quickly as you do, Brian, but still fairly quickly.
So Jonathan untaps and goes into the tank.
I would feel really comfortable if I were Jonathan right now if Michael Jacob is main face Forbidden Alchemy and laying a land.
Yeah, you're definitely in a pretty good spot, being able to do whatever
Gideon,
it is.
I bet. There she is. He is.
So yeah, Gideon resolves.
This is devastating, I think. Like,
Gideon is definitely a pretty difficult card for a lot of decks to deal with. MJ is basically on just Oblivion Ring to actually take out Gideon.
And even by doing that, though, if he Oblivion Rings, it takes up his whole turn,
right,
so that on the following turn, Jonathan Filla can hit him for 1, 3, 4, 5 damage out of 12.
And it's going to cost a significant portion of his mana that will leave him largely tapped out to not be able to deal with another potential threat that Jonathan's going to be able to play.
Gideon is one of those really great cards in an aggressive deck because it forces your opponent to actually have to deal with something, and yet it's not a creature, directly.
Right. Gideon is a card that I think a lot of people don't necessarily play optimally in a lot of matchups.
I agree with that completely.
You definitely see people who... I remember, for instance, in the era of Cobblade, a lot of people felt that Gideon wasn't a good card in Cobblade against other control decks, and that was just ludicrous. Like they were saying that, you play your Gideon and then it just dies to, your opponent's Doomblade or whatever against blue-black. It's like, no, what Gideon does is make it so your opponent can never tap down below Doomblade mana again. You don't activate it. You just leave it there as a perennial threat that can, deal with whatever sort of large creature they might play and will ultimately kill them if they ever tap out.
Here he says it's a man. Here they come.
Boom. Gideon comes in along with Blade Splicer and the token. I would not be surprised to see some townshipping go on here. We see blue. That's probably a Snapcaster. Yep, Snappy comes down.
I love calling him Snappy. What does he have there in the yard to get?
It looks like the Forbidden Alchemy.
Okay, so we're probably going to see a block here. Was it going to be a chump?
He's chumping Gideon.
Chump, and then alchemying at the end of the turn, most likely.
And
he's like, pump it up, take 5.
Township.
Take 6. Gut shot in response, so just take 4.
Oh, he does lose the 2 life from playing the gut shot because he wants to be able to snap that back.
Still 6 damage overall then.
And then Gideon gets a +1/+1 counter. Gideon is bigger than I've never seen a Gideon with a +1/+1 counter.
It's an unusual thing. I've seen it with -1 counters.
Yep, from Infect.
Yes. And here we have the Forbidden Alchemy.
So
Mike MJ looking here for the
digging.
6th land for his Sun Titan. That's into play tapped. That comes into play. Oh, he's got a Glacial Fortress. So that'll do what he needs.
So
if
Sun Titan will return.
Did he take it or did he take something else?
I imagine he did. I imagine he took the land that will let him cast Sun Titan.
Well,
but Sun Titan is interestingly a creature that is not scared of Gideon, but will have to chump block Gideon, I think.
He's low enough. He has a phantasmal image in the yard.
He can bring back the image.
So it's going to be Sun Titan.
Copying the Sun Titan, which will bring back the Snapcaster, maybe?
Maybe Snapcaster.
But Snapcaster will just be a chumper there?
Oh, we don't really know if there's an Oblivion Ring in the yard or not. There could be.
I didn't see one.
I didn't see one either.
Yep,
there we go.
Brings back image.
Let's see what it becomes.
Yep, Snapcaster's
Boom, there we go. And he'll target Gut Shot and probably not use it.
Yep, so no use for paying that life there.
Okay, now the momentum of the game has changed pretty radically.
Well, Michael Jacob is still 6 life.
Yes, Jonathan. That Gideon is going to eat something.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a Snapcaster. We were talking about using Gideons earlier. There really are 3 abilities on the card, and some people don't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Jonathan is in a tough spot here. MJ is at 6 life, but there aren't that many cards that Jonathan can have here that allows him to actually break through.
I think what he really wants right now is a Garruk Relentless. Or Oblivion Ring,
Garruk would be here?
A Sword of War and Peace would actually
Sword of War
do
and Peace
it.
would be sweet. Well, it wouldn't get past the Snapcaster.
Oh, that's right, because he keeps on bringing it back. He keeps on bringing it back to block.
The big issue here is that he can't really fight through the image because they'll just get the image will just come back. And if he attacks with Gideon, they'll just get chump blocked. If he somehow deals with image and attacks with both, the Snapcaster chump blocks the Gideon and the Golem gets eaten by the Sun Titan. Then Sun Titan just attacks next turn and brings back the image.
There's a Mirren Crusader?
Mirren Crusader's not really that scary.
I don't know. Did he not? Is that a 0 for a 10 count on his Gideon, I think?
I believe so.
Okay, so tells Michael Jacob, you must attack me.
So
I bet you that he'll do that.
I don't think MJ is too upset about having to attack here.
I mean, what we can do here, right? We can double block the Sun Titan, hope nothing goes wrong, and then kill the real Sun Titan. Mm-hmm. And then the Gideon will survive that.
Interestingly, the card that would have been best for Jonathan last turn would have been Mortar Pod, which is not in his deck.
Mortar Pod.
If he had a Mortar Pod, he could Mortar Pod, kill the image, move it to the golem, kill the Snapcaster, and
then
attack with Gideon,
force the Sun
chop.
Titan to block. Yeah.
So MJ in the tank. Didn't really get a good look at what MJ has in his hand.
No land. Well, maybe he drew one. Who knows? Okay. Setting aside some manas. He's got his 3 pile, 2 pile, and 1 pile. Okay, what is going to happen? He's got a pacifism.
Okay. Pacifism on that. All right. Jonathan is probably a little surprised by that.
Right? I mean, pacifism is the 4th Oblivion Ring. They're only running 3. It's the cheap
I think he'd be a
Oblivion
lot
Ring.
happier to have Oblivion Ring here, but
I would think that's fair. But, there could be curve considerations.
so he gets to return some lands. Didn't draw any, but he gets some anyway. Ooh, is that 2 Snapcasters he's getting back? Oh no, Snapcaster and a land. Okay.
Things rapidly turning poorly for Jonathan here. And dead Gideon. MJ tapping some more land, 3 more land. What's he got left to cast here? Desperate Ravings from the Yard? Oh no, he's using the Snapcaster to Forbidden Alchemy. There's a Mana Leak, there's
another image, I believe.
I think that was an image.
Titan? Looks like Mana Leak, image, Sun Titan, and
land. And that is a white bordered revised swamp.
Nothing but the best.
One of the things that a dealer told me, Dan Bach, is he saw my lands and he said, nothing says long-time player but cheap like those revised lands you're playing. It was the first time I'd actually considered that my lands might be giving a tell. Okay, he takes the Sun Titan. Things falling to pieces here for Jonathan.
It is Sun Titan into image is definitely a very, very powerful interaction that can be very hard to overcome.
I mean, let's pretend that Jonathan took a card that was outside of the game and put it into his hand. Like, say, Day of Judgment, which would be pretty okay right now. Or a Chroma's Vengeance, He would still just be in real trouble from Michael Jacob laying a Sun Titan from hand and then getting 2 Phantasmal Images and a Snapcaster back.
Yeah, the image Sun Titan interaction is just incredibly powerful.
And he says, attack my Gideon, go. Nearly tapped out.
That's not really the position that you want to be in.
Yeah, you're casting
as the
fog
beatdown
here.
player.
I actually think that this play doesn't actually accomplish much of anything.
It doesn't really do much.
I would actually almost rather not cast the Gideon and sit there with nothing in my hand. And pump up that Mirren Crusader so it could kill a Sun Titan. I mean, trade with a Sun Titan.
Yeah, maybe. You can at least kill the real Sun Titan, then you only have to deal with images.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this is doing is buying time, but time is actually what MJ wants.
Exactly.
It's not what Jonathan wants.
This is a kind of a classic example of knowing your role.
So MJ,
Was it a Timely Reinforcements and a Sun Titan and a land
like it.
and a Mana Leak? One other card in there I can't quite make out. I think he's going to... casts Timely for 6 life.
this game is definitely slipping away from Jonathan Filla.
Now, when he attacks, he can get a Snapcaster back.
Just to Snapcaster that timely.
Timely comes back again. Depending on where the damage goes.
Does he have 2 Snapcasters? Yeah,
yeah. There's a second one. We saw one before.
So yeah, Snapcaster.
And a land. Oh, phantasmal image. And there's the swamp.
The Titan parade continues.
It's such a powerful interaction. I mean, it's one
of
those interactions that is just so devastating. Mm-hmm. And there's the block. First strike kills the Snapcaster, and Gideon is clearly a fog.
Interestingly, it's not even clear that Snapcaster is better off in the yard than in play.
And there we go, another 6 life.
So
MJ at 18.
18. So yeah, this is just over.
Jonathan's like, well, now that you cast that timely again, I think it's over. Okay, so
the game officially ended, even if it was basically already over. So sideboarding.
Tooth runs, access to swords if he wants it for Jonathan Filla. And Mortar Pod is a card that would have helped him out, but I don't think is actually particularly good in this matchup.
It's not a card you want, but it's a card that would have been good there.
Naturalize. He saw Pacifism. If I see Pacifism, I'm going to assume there's already Oblivion Ring.
Right.
And I'm going to think about Naturalize. I don't know if it's appropriate because, I mean, Sword of War and Peace will take care of Pacifism. Mm-hmm. So you just have to ask yourself if Naturalize is correct. Because you don't want to sideboard in, 8 cards and then suddenly not be the deck that you are, unless you actually can transform properly.
Attention players, I need Mike DeSando.
So MJ here, he has 2 more Day of Judgment in his sideboard.
Goes him up to 3 after boarding.
He has a Combust, a Timely Reinforcement, and a Snapcaster Mage. I think there's a good chance that all of those will come in.
I think that's absolutely fair.
I imagine that he'll likely take out probably maybe the Dissipate. This is a matchup where
he doesn't need to do that.
Yeah, you are fighting against Garrick Relentless, but that's not really a super scary card.
I mean, basically the way his deck works at this point is he can blow things up. That can be his plan. Rather than countering them and hoping he has the counter at the right time, he can just be like, break it. Right.
I definitely like having access to some amount of counter magic against green-white tokens because they do have the powerful planeswalkers that they can play. Their plan often is to just play guy, force you to Wrath, play a planeswalker to follow it up. So the counter magic is very often going to sort of just be there dead in your hand. So I definitely think that I would start there. He may take out some number of his mana leaks.
I like that. I like taking a couple of those out.
Yeah. So I could definitely see his sideboarding plan be +2 Day of Judgment, +1 Combust, +1 Timely, +1 Snapcaster, and just pull out all of the actual counter magic.
I'm fine with that. And I mean, if you do feel like you need to have something to stop a Garrick, because he did see Garrick.
Yes.
You can always choose to bring in like a card like Negate. Because he saw, I believe, did he see Sword of War and Peace from Jonathan or no?
I don't believe he saw Sword.
Well, he saw Gideon, he saw Garrick. You're right, he did not see Sword. I do like the idea of some amount of counter magic, like 1 Dissipate keeping in might be okay, or boarding it out and bringing in 1 Negate, depending on how he feels about the actual cards from Jonathan. Negate obviously terrible against all the creatures, but the cheapness of it can matter when it comes to the planeswalkers.
He also has 1 copy of Unburial Rites in his main deck. That's a card that is generally very good against other control decks to sort of trade counter magic, trade threat for threat, and then give you sort of the ability to reload. It can also be pretty powerful against aggressive decks if you're able to bring back something like a Sun Titan, but against green-white, his Sun Titan's unlikely to ever really die. So I could certainly see Unburial Rites coming out potentially, and
yeah, I think that's actually really good because there's very little that green-white will do to actively do that other than fight fair.
Right. So one of the things that's about the green-white deck is generally very well set up to deal with the control decks that are just trying to trade with your stuff because they have removal spell for your guy, removal spell for your guy. You have guys who are generally hard to remove, like Mirran Crusader and Blade Splash, so they're hard to trade 1-for-1 with if you're playing, say, a blue-black deck. And then the planeswalkers are often able to sort of trump what a, say, blue-black control deck can do with Consecrated Sphinx or some of the reassembling skeleton versions or whatever. But the version of control that MJ is playing is much more able to go over the top with Sun Titan. Sun Titan into Image, into whatever. is incredibly powerful compared to what it is that Jonathan's deck is actually doing. Jonathan really needs to be able to kill him quickly, and I think that the Planeswalker plan isn't really the best way to do that.
I'm looking at Jonathan's sideboard, and I think that what he's going to do is he ought to sideboard out the 3 Spellskites, ought to board out perhaps one of the Gideon Giras, because it's good but not great in this matchup. And then that gives him access to 2 Thruns and at least 2 of his 3 swords. And then maybe find another room, because I think the swords are actually very effective.
Absolutely. I think the swords are the sort of thing that are going to actually be able to put on the pressure to win the game. The Gideons, as we saw in Game 1, Gideon can be a reasonable threat that helps you fight through Day of Judgment, but it's an expensive card. It's a card that, especially the second Gideon we saw, it's just not letting him put the pressure on he needs to. If instead on that turn he had cast a sword and attacked, that would have been much more powerful.
Very impressive. And I mean, the thing about it is that the primary threat Michael Jacob is going to throw at him is a creature that has vigilance. And so if Gideon can't murder things, you're cutting off 1/3 of its abilities. Gideon's ability to be a murderer is very big.
Right. Gideon, I mean, the major function of Gideon is really winning creature battles and holding off creature rushes. In a control deck, Gideon's role is generally to keep you alive and kill their stuff. Whereas in a creature mirror, his role is to just mutilate their team when they're forced to charge into yours and you get to block however you want. It's Master Warcraft every turn.
Right. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here in the booth with Brian Kibler. This is SCG Live. We're here at the Star City Games Open Series in St. Louis. Day 1 is standard. Day 1 is standard. Game 1, Michael Jacob is up 1-0 versus his opponent, Jonathan Filla. Michael Jacob with a update to the deck that he and Jerry Thompson, played at Worlds. This time expanding the color base from the USA colors of red, white, and blue all the way to 4, nay, 5 colors, depending on how you want to count them.
He has 4 actual colors of spells. His mana base can produce 5 colors, and if you include the flashback from Ancient Grudge in his sideboard, he has the full 5-color control.
If it was Chapin would say it's 5 colors.
He would.
Okay. Ponder from Michael Jacob.
Ooh, and we see a Ancient Grudge in that Ponder, so he's certainly anticipating swords coming in from Jonathan.
Maybe this is a good reason for him not to bring in counter magic. Just break it, control.
Yep, absolutely.
Classic red-white style that was never very good before.
And there's a gut shot that takes out that turn 1 Pilgrim from Jonathan Filla. So gut shot was really one of the big reasons that a lot of players got off the green-white control, or rather green-white tokens deck. Coming into the World Championships, Illusions was one of the big decks that everyone expected to see, as well as Mono Red, etc. And all these decks either played gut shot, were weak to gut shot, or both, leading everyone to want to play with gut shot. So and we see here the green-white tokens deck. It has a lot of cards that are sort of in the middle of the curve.
Absolutely. And I mean,
without its mana creatures, he's in big trouble.
Killing a Vassan's Pilgrim, or a Bird of Paradise, can sometimes mean, because of the way that the deck stretches its mana, that it can't cast something like a Blade Splicer. Mm-hmm. Okay. Turn 3, Michael Jacob plays his 3rd land. Shimmering Grotto, is that?
Yes, it is.
His
mana right now is Seachrome Coast, Clifftop Retreat, and Shimmering Grotto. Lots of colors in there. Jonathan Filla with only 1 color, 2 basic forests with his Pilgrim Dead.
Different full art forests there. We see a Ghost Quarter come down with Snapcaster returning Ponder using the grotto.
So MJ getting aggressive, digging through his deck with Ponders to capitalize on his opponent's lack of colored mana.
Making a play that's more akin to a Blue Illusions play. Snapcaster into Ponder.
You definitely see a lot of Silvergill Adepts coming out of the aggressive Snapcaster decks.
And Silvergill Adept was good, but if it's not a draw card, but a Ponder, oh my god.
It is pretty sweet.
That would be a crazy merfolk.
So Jonathan Filla is already really on the back foot this game.
And here we go. It's going to be a bird, I bet. There it is.
Looks like a fistful of white cards. I saw a number of Oblivion Rings in his hand. Can't really see what else he has going on, but definitely a lot of spells that he cannot cast.
I see a Mana Leak, Desperate Ravings, Day of Judgment, Sun Titan.
So Oblivion Rings the bird.
Take that, bird.
Oblivion Ring your land, go. It's not legal. Wait, no, it kind of is.
Somewhat.
When your land is represented by Bird of Paradise. So Jonathan draws, and a Pilgrim comes down. Did we see another Snapcaster? Oh, well, there's an Oblivion Ring that MJ drew. If he has another Snapcaster, you can snap back that.
Ancient Grudge, Oblivion Ring, Sun Titan, Mana Leak, Day of Judgment. And O-Ring?
Is this Desperate Ravings?
Desperate. I don't know.
Desperate times. I imagine he's trying to draw into a land so he can cast that Oblivion Ring.
He's not afraid to do that.
You really can't be with Desperate Ravings. If you never cast Desperate Ravings when there's a card you would prefer not to discard in your hand, you're just never going to cast Desperate Ravings.
Exactly. What did he lose? I cannot tell.
Can't tell. It's below our...
Is that a Grudge?
Unburial
Rights.
The perfect place for it.
Little discount on your Unburial Rights the second time around.
And he drew a land that comes into play tapped, so he can't actually cast that Oblivion Ring this turn, which he can't really be too disappointed about, given the number of lands that come into play tapped in his deck at this point. Passes it back.
And now Jonathan actually has white. What will he do with it?
That's pretty lucky to actually have white mana.
There we go. O-Ring, your O-Ring. Mana Leak, I expect.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to get mana leaked.
Or he might have let it resolve, right? And then cast Day of Judgment to knock him down.
That's also possible. And perhaps better.
Mana Leak against such a mana light opponent is just so powerful.
Yeah, he's just
there you go. Let's not fool around.
Yeah, this lets MJ really keep the pressure on, keep himself firmly in the aggressive position. So, looks like, is that a gut shot in his hand? It looks like that card 4 to the right was a gut shot.
Snappy comes on in. Tiago, no. 4 mana. We see the Unburial Rights.
Oh, did he have a fatty in his yard? Oh, he did.
Oh, Doctor.
Dear, I didn't even see that.
Oh, wow. And a gut shot. Okay, Jonathan. Now, what you need, Jonathan, is a Day of Judgment plus other cards. What do you got?
If you draw a Plains, Zeranorb, and Balance this turn, you may be able to win.
Ooh, that's actually a very good setup. That's a good line.
So yeah, this really just shows how difficult it can be for the green-white deck to win if an opponent is pressuring your mana producers. The green-white deck is heavily reliant on Evason's Pilgrim, Birds of Paradise, Land Elves. You actually see a lot of versions nowadays that are playing even 9, 10 copies of the 1-mana creatures, and against decks that are killing them, you just end up in such a rough position if you don't have the perfect mix of the rest of your mana. Well, Gavany Township is a very, very powerful card. It doesn't produce colored mana, and while Jonathan's not stuck in it here, if he did draw, there's not that many cards in his deck that even produce white when he draws at this point. He can draw, I guess it's 15. That's a lot. He only has 2 of his basic forests, 2 of his 5, but you still risk putting yourself in an awkward spot, especially when your deck has a lot of double white spells like Mirroring Crusader, Gideon, etc.
Well, I mean, the key really to drawing your colors is to play more of them, and then they just show up.
Yeah, apparently you have no problem casting Unburial Rights and Desperate Ravings and Flashing Back.
Pro tip for those of you who are out there, and you're always wondering, how come I don't have enough mana in my deck? The key, if you cut lands from your deck, you will draw more mana. That's how the math works. Add lands, you'll draw less.
MJ ghost quartering his own land to be able to... This is just rubbing it in.
I know, I was going to say, I don't need this
This is just
one.
like, look at what else I can do.
Yeah.
I'm so far ahead, I'm going to kill my own land.
Did he kill a revised land to get another revised land?
I think he did.
He's like, come here, son.
He's going to image himself.
He's going to get back the land.
Haha, it's back the ghost quarter.
I could do that again if I want.
It's the ability to continue to produce extra mana because you have multiple Sun Titans in play. Jonathan with the gut shot.
Okay,
Boom.
that is not a card that I think ought have been boarded in.
I am a little surprised to see gut shot in his deck after sideboarding.
I do not know what was the idea there.
That's the game. So Michael Jacob wins the match 2-0 with his 4/5 color control deck taking down green-white token aggro. I guess it's hard to call it green-white tokens when there's only really Garrick that makes tokens.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's no Geistern Monk, there's no Elspeth. Sort of move away from that. So, what do you think about MJ's deck having seen it in action?